All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Oops. Can everybody hear me? See my screen and hear me? All right, cool. Well, for those of you that do not know, I am Josh Benton. I am one of Daniel Rowe's programmers, and I help out in the trading room in the mornings. And so Daniel is on vacation for the week, so I am going to cover this session today and just go over some charts, probably go over crude, the euro, maybe the yen and gold, and then maybe touch on Nasdaq a little bit. So probably gonna be a pretty fast session. So we'll start with the weekly and then drop down to the 60-minute. So basically, for those of you that are new or don't know, we look at market geometry as the main tool for finding the setups that we trade. And then we combine that with Elliott Wave just to get a sense of basically market direction and be able to anticipate market moves where that then aligns with geometry. And then we also use divergence. We've got a Divergences Pro tool that we use for a lot of momentum type divergence. And then we also have some volume tools that help us just kind of fine tune our entries. So we usually will drill down an entry to as small as the 2-minute chart. And so today we'll just be keeping it higher time frames, just going over some of the different setups that we got over the week, and then kind of where we're headed next as far as what to be watching out for next week. So are there any questions up front? If not, we will jump into crude. So this is the weekly of crude oil. Basically, we are looking for the end of this fourth wave correction. So we've got a 5-wave move down. We've got the completed second wave, a finished third wave down, right? And now we're looking for that fourth wave. So just, you know, I'm sure there's some of you that aren't familiar with Elliott Wave, and I'll go over some of the basics as far as what we look for, but basically it's looking for 5s and 3s. I mean, that's really what it boils down to, looking for impulsive waves or impulsive moves, which is 5 waves, and then corrective moves, which are 3 waves. And so that's all we have here. We have, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for an overall impulsive move to the downside. And we're looking for the completion of that fourth wave. So you see a really nice 5 waves down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're now looking for a completed fourth. So it looks like 60 is the area to get to as far as resistance with the areas coming in the market geometry. So basically just taking the major 2 highs for this channel, that gives us this auto line, which is just basically the way that our geometry tools work, just connecting the first 2 clicks will calculate that auto line or the widest point of the channel. And so that's what we find here, and that projects forward, we drop below this auto line and we're actually coming back up underneath it now. So what was once support, we're now looking to become resistance, and that's also the midpoint of the channel from this high to this low. And then from this high to high pitchfork, we also have this upper median line coming in a little bit higher than 60. So that's going to be the spot that we're looking to get to. And really the possibility is that this is completed, and that's actually what we were considering before, but favoring more upside, and I'll show you that now on the daily. So this is this last up move. So this is what we're looking for as the fourth wave, or what we have counted as the fourth wave. And basically, it's just been kind of a mess in here. Pretty difficult to kind of isolate the waves. So this is one possibility. Basically, it would be a 333 correction, but without getting into too much detail, it's looking like we have that final wave to make for the completed fourth wave of this entire move up. So I'll just touch briefly on the other alternative, which is that this fourth wave is actually done here, where I have this Y marked, and this is then going to be headed lower from here, and will maintain below this high at 23.55.23. I think that's the high. 24 is the high. So if that's the case, then you see the cyan colored count. That would be the alternative. So 1, 2, 1, 2 is how I have that counted, and I think that's less likely. So what I'm favoring is that basically we've got our first A wave up, which is 5 waves, and we're now in that pullback B wave, and then basically we're looking for the end of that B wave for a long to get above this high, and really above 24 to complete this overall fourth wave. So let's take a look at the 240 minute. So this is that last 3 wave move down that we have. I've got it marked out as this ABC. So a pretty clear looking 3 waves down, and then we get this fast push out of the low, and have since found resistance, turned down, and this is now what we're looking for to be moving higher from here. So I'm actually favoring this as an A, B. So in terms of kind of what to be looking for going into next week, we've pulled back all the way to the 61.8 of this up move. So, and we've actually found some resistance here and pulled up off of the lows, but really not much in terms of geometry right here. So the better areas to look for support and expect the completed 3 waves down, to expect the end of this C wave is going to be, the first spot will be this this upsloping lower median line, and that is drawn from way back. Actually, let me show you that on the daily. So that's this large channel drawn from this February 4th low to this previous low, and then You know, one good thing about this piece of geometry is that we use the center median line perfectly here at the low. So when you see price respect previous areas, then that gives you confidence that, you know, the entire structure is, or the entire pitchfork in this case, is being respected. So you can see a couple of different touches, one here and one there on that center median line as part of this pitchfork. So now we'd be looking for potential support back down to the bottom of the pitchfork, just that lower median line. And that's what this is right here on the 240 minute. So that would be down around 46, depending on how fast we move down. So that's going to be the first spot. Crude likes to retrace 78.6. So that 78.6 is coming in around 45.50, and that's going to be a little bit lower, which coincides with this upsloping lower median line. And that one is drawn from this low. So that would be the second area to look for support. Let's see. Yeah, we actually just taking that previous low to kind of this intermediate low to the ultimate low. That gives us the exact same slope as the trend line, and that's coming in around 45. Let's see, 1 second here. I forgot to show this little disclaimer here. Let me pull this up. All right, I apologize. I forgot to show this, but yeah, basically don't trade your lunch money is the idea. So just trying to give you guys some ideas as far as, you know, market outlook and areas to trade from and expect support and resistance. So just trying to introduce some of the tools and basically show you some different things that may end up playing out in the coming weeks. So anyway, back to crude. So let's jump down to the 60-minute because we actually had a couple of pretty awesome shorts. So this is that big push up, and we have what looks like a completed 5 waves. I guess you could also look at this as a potential double 3 correction. I won't get into that, but right now I've got this as 5 waves for a completed A up, and then now we're in our A down, B up, and looking for that final C wave. So the first area, as far as the 60-minute, there were some other areas on some of the lower time frames, but as far as this chart goes, we had just a perfect touch of the top of this channel. And that's basically just taking the low from the end of this 4th wave and dragging that to, or taking the second click to the lowest low here, and that gave you the high there. What was really the nice short from yesterday was this one here, and actually a couple of the guys at least one of the guys grabbed that. It turned out to be obviously a really nice move to the downside, and basically it was just short of the top of the channel. So when you're looking for this pullback, so this would be a correction in the downward move, right? And looking to get to the top of the channel. But what we ran into is this center median line, which is basically just drawing from low to low. And that gave us this low, again, talking about looking for previous areas of support and resistance where we've seen respect in the past. We've got a turn up here and here, so we've got confidence that this center median line is valid, right? And that's actually what we hit and overthrew by just a couple of ticks. And then this smaller upsloping channel, we did the exact same thing on that center median line. So that was the short of yesterday. And basically what I'm looking for next week is one more wave to the downside. So if we're in the C wave, so we're in this last wave down before turning up and hopefully breaking above this high, basically it looks like an ending diagonal. So without getting into too much detail, the ending diagonal is 5 waves, each 3 waves. So each of those 5 is 3 waves. So it looks like we've completed 3 of those 5 waves, and we've got probably a bit more upside for that final wave. It could be done here, but I'm thinking a little bit more upside, and then a final wave down to complete that C wave. So that's what I'm looking for to happen. If we do get up higher next week, I'll definitely be looking for a short a little bit higher. Probably to the top of this channel is going to be what I would look to get to. We've already turned down from that center median line. So if we could get to the top of that channel, I would definitely look to get short. And again, this is the major area, the first area of support coming in right around 46. So that's where once we do put in this high, I'd be looking for support down in this 46 area. So that is crude. And let's move on to the euro. All right. So basically we're looking for much more upside is the gist of it. It's looking like a completed 5 waves down right here. So we've got a huge 1, 2, 3, and then a nice triangle for the 4th wave. And the 4th wave, or a triangle, is always the wave before the final wave, right? So in an impulsive sequence, if there's a triangle, that's always going to be the 4th wave, never the second. So we've got this nice triangle, and then we come down, break the lows, and then we've since come back quite a ways. Originally, we were thinking, well, this could be, just the first wave down, like this, 1, 2, and then we were thinking, okay, now we'll keep heading lower for a larger fifth wave. And obviously we didn't stop there. We kept coming higher. So we've kind of switched perspective a little bit, and now we're thinking fifth wave is in, and our first and second of that new move to the upside is done, and now we're in the third wave, and we're at a few really nice areas of resistance now, but really expecting to break up and out of this. We may end up getting some resistance and fall back from this temporarily, but ultimately we're expecting new highs. So here is the daily. And again, here's that perfect looking triangle. You've got the 5 wave move out of that triangle to break the lows. And then this 1, 2, and now we're in 3. So not, we're at those areas of resistance that I was just showing on the weekly right now. And then beyond that, I really don't see a lot stopping us until we get quite a bit higher. That's actually pretty interesting right there. So just drawing from the major 2 lows, that's the idea with the geometry is keeping it as obvious as possible in terms of using the major highs, the major lows, and looking for where price has respected those areas. So just using the major lows here, and you can see that price has respected the lower median line of that pitchfork really well. We've turned up off of it a couple of times. And so I just made a copy of that center median line and brought it down to a previous low where we found support. And that's actually what we found resistance on here. And we got somewhat of a pullback. And we're now just about back to that area. So again, that in combination with these 3 areas on the weekly, it's looking like definitely some reason for a decent pullback, but I'm thinking we're now in the 5th wave, and I think Monday or Sunday or Monday we could be getting that next push to the upside. So let's just jump down to the 240 minute, because this was probably the trade of the week. It was definitely the trade of the week. Daniel actually took this one for a pretty awesome run. He took 3 contracts at the low, and then I believe he took one off here. He might have taken a couple off here, and then he took another one off here. So he got a really awesome move out of this. Let's see. So on that last contract, I think he was close to 250 ticks. So let's go over some of the areas that came together for that low, because it's pretty picture perfect. So basically, again, just taking the major highs and lows. So in this case, it was the major low here to the next low. And we've got the top of the channel, and that we break above, we pull back to, and find resistance or find support on that. So we'd call that a kiss goodbye of the top of this channel. Pull above, pull back to, and then we take off from there. So that was a nice show or a sign of respect for that channel, right? That trend line. And from there, we've got confidence that price will probably respect that in the future. So we're seeing a first wave up, a pullback, and then we start getting this deeper pullback, thinking, okay, this is probably the fourth wave, which is exactly what it looks like, and which is exactly what it looks like is the case, and that's what we were anticipating at the time, and it came right down to the top of that channel and touched it pretty perfectly. So that was one area, and then the next area was basically from this high to the highest high. So rather than from that previous high, which would have been the widest point, you take that to the highest high of the couple of highs here, and that gives you the auto line, which is just the widest point that comes in line perfectly with that low, and then the resulting pitchfork from this structure is giving us the center median line exactly at that spot as well. So you have three perfect areas coming together right there, and that's exactly what we look for. We don't always get the large setups like this to where you have such a large expectancy as far as number of ticks. But when they happen, we try to capture those. So fortunately, Dan was able to hold on to that one for quite a ride. And it looks like an incomplete fifth now. So we're looking for, we did break this previous third. So we've satisfied the minimum requirement for this to be a completed 5-wave move up. But there's just, there's so much upside that we're still expecting. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't keep hitting higher. Like I said, there's a few other areas at 3280, just on the 240, these upsloping areas, the midline of the channel, and then this center median line right here, which we used a few different times at the high here. This high, a little bit of an overthrow there, and then at the lows. So we'll be potentially finding resistance there, but I think quite a bit more upside. So let me jump down to the 60-minute. So this is basically the same geometry that I had on the 240 with that low, that perfect buy right there. And we've basically got what looks like potentially just the first 2 waves of this 5-wave move to the upside. So it's not real clear as far as what these waves are. I was originally thinking potentially finished 5th, something like this, but with a bit of overlap here, it's not looking right. So basically it's looking like this is just a completed 2nd wave. And we're definitely at a nice area in the geometry on the 60-minute as well, actually. And just looking at the 3 areas on the weekly, this area here, and then again, this upsloping area, just a tiny bit higher. There's quite a bit right here at the high. And I like this pitchfork quite a bit because of the way that we've used it at the lows. So we'll see. It looks like we're closing at the highs. So potential, gap up, but at the same time, we're going to be closing near a lot of resistance. So it'll be interesting to see, with expectations of much higher prices, but at the same time, in a lot of areas in the geometry, maybe we get that pullback from these areas before we head to higher prices. So one thing to look out for is a potential kiss goodbye from the top of this channel. So that's just basically drawing from high to high here, and that gives me this pitchfork, which we've used really well. It had a couple of lows here for the center median line, and then it gave us this high here. And so now that we've broken out and above that channel, looking for that to become support and to reject off and up from, is something that we see quite a bit. So that's something to keep an eye out on. And then beyond that, if we come lower, the first spot for support would be down around this 2160 area, where you've got the center median line and this channel, the bottom of this channel coming in together. So that is euro. And let's jump to gold, and then I think I'll cover gold and briefly the yen, because even though they're pretty highly correlated, so a lot of the analysis is similar. There was actually a really nice setup in yen that I took earlier in the week, and it didn't quite set up the same in gold. So I'll touch on that. So here is the weekly in gold. Basically looking for higher prices again. So we've got a completed 3 waves down and looking for that next move to the upside, which would be the C wave of the 4th wave. So that's what we're looking for. I've got the cyan count just to keep in mind that it's a potential, because this actually could be a completed 4th wave. We did come all the way up in line with this previous 4th wave, which is pretty typical of the 4th wave of the larger degree to come in line with the 4th wave of the smaller degree. So we've already completed that, but it's looking like still one more wave to the upside for a larger 4th wave. So anyway, keep that in mind, but at the same time, favoring higher prices. And we're at a couple of pretty nice areas right now. Really a similar picture to euro as far as ending the week at some pretty major areas of resistance and expecting higher prices. So this is just a trend line from the major highs. And we found resistance on this several times. Didn't quite make it up there on the pullback of the 2nd wave, but have since turned down from it here, and now we're back up to it. And then that second area is just the channel from low to low, so this down sloping channel, and we used the resulting pitchfork of that right here at the high, and obviously pulled back some, and now we're back to the top of the channel. So on the daily chart, again, I've got this cyan count, which would be what we're expecting if that large 4th wave, if this large 4th wave in this cyan color is the case, and it's complete at this high, and we won't go break to new highs. So if that is the case, then that's what we're looking at here, is this ABC up, and we would be looking to maintain below this high. But I think that's unlikely. I think this is a 1-2, and then we're now in the 3rd wave. So this is that same downsloping channel that I had on the weekly chart. And we are back to the top of that channel, and we're at the 78.6 retracement. So, if this is going to maintain a lower high and this is going to be just a 1-2, this would be the spot right here. But I'm not confident that that is the case. I don't think that's the case. So I'm pointing it out, but expecting that we'll probably break up and through this. So, I mean, just looking at some of the fib relationships, taking the retracement of this move up, we've got a perfect 50% retracement. This wave down is a perfect 50% retracement of this wave up. And then taking the retracement of this wave up, this is a perfect 78.6, nearly perfect 78.6 retracement of this wave up. So it's looking really quite nice for these two as corrective waves as part of a larger impulsive move to the upside. All right, here's the 240-minute. And I've left a couple of different pitchforks and channels in here just to see where we've actually broken up through resistance. This is just taking those last two major highs. And we actually turned down from it briefly here and have since broken up and out of that. So we're clear of that resistance, and then just taking this low to low. That channel gave us this center median line, which we also found resistance on here. And that actually was a pretty decent area for a short. It wasn't not necessarily a short that we would typically take because we're expecting a 5-wave move. We're expecting an impulsive move, and we like to short corrections or trade corrections, whether that's a short or a long. So that would have been trading against the direction of the impulsive wave. But you do see a couple of nice areas come together, and we pulled back, and now we've since broken up out of both of those areas. So free of those areas, but at a couple of the larger areas on the daily and the weekly. So it's looking like basically a nice 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got a nice triangle for the 4th wave. And Dan actually bought this for a long, and I think he got a pretty good chunk out of this. I don't recall what his exact exit was on that. Expecting at least a break above this high, which was, the start of the triangle, the start of the 4th wave. So we did that, and then now it's looking like just the 1-2 is completed, and we're going to be heading to much higher prices. So I'll show that on the 60-minute, and then we will move on. This is actually a really nice piece of geometry. So just taking the simple swing lows from low to low, and this actually is, so this has the channel, and it has, automatically draws the pitchfork as well as the warning lines, which is the plus and minus 50 and 100% warning lines of the channel, and I guess I deleted the lower, the negative warning lines for the channel, but the warning lines for the pitchfork, and you see you see just a ton of respect, right? You see this lower median line giving you the lows, the warning line, the negative 50% warning line giving you the lows here. The center median line giving you highs here. And really that was a pretty awesome look for a long right there as far as just this piece of geometry. I mean, you've got, the warning line coming in just perfectly. And then we've now got this channel from low to low, just taking those last two lows, and that's now what we're sitting up against now. So it looks like we're going to close up again near that. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got at least 5 areas of resistance that we're going to be closing near. So yeah, really similar story to the euro. So expecting much higher prices, but closing near resistance. So definitely, if we do get a pullback, longs will be what we'll be looking for in the trade room. So the first area would be the top of this channel. So basically coming back and finding support after we've broken up and out of it. And it would be nice to actually come back to this area, you know, depending on how fast we retrace. If we do indeed retrace, that would be a nice spot here, which coincides, you know, with that channel line and the upsloping lower median line here, this white one. So that's around 70, 69.5. So yeah, basically looking for pullbacks to get long is what we're looking for. All right, so that is gold. And I am going to touch on the yen just because we had a pretty awesome setup, like I said, that is worth mentioning. Hang on one second. Okay. So similar story as far as the overall wave structure in the yen. So I'm not going to really get into that. This is kind of an interesting area that we found support at. So this is the daily, and we've got the lower median line just taking the last two highs, and you can see that we found resistance here on that center median line, and then we found support here. So coming into this low, you know, as price is dropping and we're looking for a turn, we've already seen price respect this pitchfork. So we've got added confidence that this will provide some support. So it drops into this area, which is also the 88.6 retracement of this move up. And then this is kind of an interesting pitchfork. It's not perfect. It's not something that, I don't know, I would necessarily always keep. In fact, coming into this low, I probably wouldn't have given it a whole lot of weight, but it is kind of interesting the way that it's used here at the low. So you can actually, I'm just taking the highest high here and then the high from this massive wick and drawing some parallels. You can actually see we used the slope pretty well, but the cool thing is the channel. From just taking this high to high channel, we got the auto line here, and then a perfect touch of that channel after we've broken below the channel, pulled back to the channel, and we find resistance there and turn down. So which that also coincides with that center median line, which obviously wouldn't have been drawn in real time because that anchor point is at a later date. But anyway, so then taking that upper median line, we break above and then pull back to right here. And we've since found support and are turning up. So let's drop down to the 240 minute because this was the short that that we took yesterday. That was just a really nice looking setup. So basically, we have three major areas coming together right here. Let me check on my other chart here real quick. Okay. Let's see. Actually, this was Wednesday. The high was Wednesday. So anyway, taking the widest point of this channel, so this high to the major high, and then that gives us the auto line, which is the bottom of the channel, and the widest point right here, and that projects forward and gives us the kiss goodbye line right here. So you see, you can see actually that we used it initially coming into this high. We turned down from it here, and then we pull up to it, and obviously got that nice move out of that area. So that was the first area. The second area was this downsloping channel drawing from low to low, and that gives us the auto line, the top of the channel, that comes in line perfectly there as well. And you can see the resulting center median line gives us that high right there. So again, you see price respect the geometry. That gives you confidence in the future areas, or future price touches of the geometry. And what does price do? Come right up to the top of the channel and turn down. And we actually also had one more area there, which is this the same channel from the same channel that we got this touch of the kiss goodbye line. We actually have that center median line coming in there perfectly as well. So that was a nice short setup. I actually took that for not a ton of, I really actually didn't take that for many ticks at all, because I had to be flat before the close, but there was, let's see, what did that end up being? So, potentially at least 150 ticks, depending on kind of where that geometry came in for the low. Well, that's perfect right there. So just taking the high to high, and that gave us the low right there. So that was a pretty awesome short. And we are, same story as gold, quite a few areas of resistance right here. And it's looking like we're in that fifth wave and looking for higher prices. So I'll just drop down to the 60-minute. We've got this nice look to a fourth wave, 3 waves down into the low. And then we've got this push up, pull back, and then from the report this morning, we get this nice, obviously impulsive looking new move to the upside. So right now we're at the top of the channel. We're back to this kiss goodbye line, which we've used for resistance a few times, and then a couple of different median lines. So all coming together right there. So I'm really not interested in shorting this, because again, we look for corrections. We look to trade corrections because that has the highest risk to reward ratio in terms of trying to maximize profits and minimize risk. So that's why corrections make the most sense And that's what we're trying to do. So because it's looking like still an incompleted wave to the upside, you know, looking at the geometry here, thinking, okay, probably a spot for resistance. Maybe this is the spot we'll get a turn down, and then I'll be a buyer if we can get a decent pullback, and then looking for higher prices. So that is the yen. And I guess let me touch briefly on the Nasdaq. I'm not going to really go over too much because, as you know, we've just been going, you know, straight to the upside. I mean, that's just been the story with the Nasdaq for a long time now. And basically, any dips, any pullbacks have been good for, you know, a long trade. So I'll just note the daily here. We are not quite to the top of the channel. And we used the lower median line here at the low. So I think this is it's a valid channel. One thing that might actually end up playing out is if we take a copy of that channel and bring it down to where we made this low, we're actually starting to come through that. So potential area of resistance, but ultimately I'm looking for at least a touch of the top of that channel before getting some kind of pullback, and who knows, I mean, we could just keep on going. It's basically been a pretty safe bet to buy the pullbacks, obviously. So this is just one example of that from this morning, actually. So we had, I don't know if that's showing up very well. Let me change this really quick. Okay. So this morning, kind of an interesting confluence of areas. Basically taking the low to low channel here, and you know, after price breaks below, you know, it's easy to think, okay, invalid at this point. Price has shown that it's not being respected, but sometimes, you know, actually very often, you'll still use that in the future. Those channels will continue to be used, and we have confidence that that's likely to happen because we turn down from the center median line here. And so what do? We break below, use that lower median line as resistance, break above, and then a perfect touch of that lower median line. So just thinking about this pitchfork as a channel, right? So finding support again on the bottom of the channel, and that was also this lower median line, just taking the last two lows. And that was a pretty nice couple of areas that came together for a long, but wow, just a small pullback. So I'm thinking that this is probably, out of this corrective low, we've got a 1, 2, and then I'm thinking we're still in 3, and then looking for a larger fourth wave, and then another wave to the upside. So this is what I'll be next week. I'll be looking for a deeper pullback to get long. So maybe that is our 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're completing 5, or potentially this is our 1, 2, and we're still in 3 of the smaller degree third wave. So anyway, looking for that pullback, and really, I mean, this is going to be a pretty nice spot to look for support, and also the bottom of this channel again. So be looking for longs in the Nasdaq. So I guess that is pretty much what I wanted to cover today. We're at just about an hour now. Are there any questions? Any questions about the analysis or what we do or anything like that? All right, cool. Well, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I guess we'll see hopefully all of you guys for the next session on Friday, and for those of you in the room, we'll see you guys Monday morning. So, all right, guys, take care and have a good weekend. See ya.